welcome to another episode of Soccerheads New England. I'm Dave Rattigan here with Paul Nardizzi. Jim Ruberti is joining us by phone today. We're all comedians, all three of us, and those two are real soccer heads. I'm just a guy who knows what a friendly is and likes it because it makes him think of ice cream. Check us out at soccerheadsnewengland.com. We have a Facebook page, or email soccerheadsnewengland@gmail.com. And please share us if you like us, because we've only got one listener and would like to get two. We have a show to plug, by the way, Paul.
We do. We have June 18th, the three of us at the Doubletree Hilton in Milford.
Doubletree Hotel, which is the Hilton Hotel in Milford. Milford, Massachusetts, Saturday, June 18th. Jim Ruberti, Dave Rattigan, Paul Nardizzi. So if you're in the area, come laugh with us. It's going to be a lot of fun.
I plan to kill Dave that night.
You plan to do well?
Kill, yeah. In comedy, we call it killing.
Killing?
Plan to kill.
Is that all right?
Yes.
That's the plan. All right, with us.
And Dave, don't forget, if your bucket list is to go to Milford, Massachusetts, this would be the time to do it.
Yeah, I think this is the perfect time to go to Milford. I think any time is a good time to go to Milford. Giovanni, have you ever been to Milford?
I can't say that I have. I have to put that one on the bucket list.
You know what they call women who live in Milford?
Oh boy,
MILFs.
What do they call women who live in
MILFs.
MILFs.
So if you're a MILF, we want to see you at the show. If you're not a MILF, we still want you to come. But definitely the MILFs are coming to that show.
All right. With us also is our engineer, Dale Lawrence. As you know, if you're a regular listener, he's a former boxer who took so many shots to the head that he always thinks someone's ringing the doorbell. And we also have a guest coach and a podcaster and someone who knows a lot about a lot. And what a name, Giovanni Pacini. Is that correct?
Giovanni Pacini. If you want to go total Italian,
yep.
Giovanni Antonio Pacini. If you want to go full-on Italian.
That is. We're going to tap into Giovanni's soccer IQ, and by the time we're done, Giovanni, I'm sure you'll be a variant lower.
So, Giovanni.
Yes, sir.
Do you get a discount at the Gap? I mean, is that your...
Listen,
they're already monogrammed. So
I buy
everything at the Gap.
I could only wish.
All right, later on, Paul, we'll have an unbelievable story, as always, from the wide world of soccer news. It's going to be, I'm sure it's going to be as good as it always is. And these stories, Giovanni, they're unbelievable. You're going to think to yourself, and you hear it, you'll be like, no way.
You think that I literally wrote it right now.
Yeah. It's almost like it came from your imagination, but whose imagination could come up with the things you come up with? But first, before we get to any of that, we've got plugs. We've got two sponsors and a service. Our newest sponsor.
We have a new sponsor?
Well, new for us. Have you heard of this, Paul? Monster Soccer?
Oh, I know about that one.
Yeah, that's the new one.
Oh.
Run by Bryce Nardizzi, who had an excellent soccer career, and it was founded by our own Paul Nardizzi, sitting right to my right-hand side here. And I don't know if you ever did this, Giovanni, when you were training young athletes, but Paul used to make his own kids eat raw eggs.
No, never on the nutritional diet of any athlete that I coached.
Yeah.
But if it works, it works.
It actually was not because of the training, but just Paul couldn't find the frying pan. So if you want to train for success, call Monster Soccer at 508-308-4109. Also, Soccerheads New England is sponsored by Paul's favorite financial advisor, Rick Spencer, 978-857-7573. Rick speaks at seminars for soccer clubs, youth leagues, and the public. He'll help you get your kid into college and save you money. Rick is also my financial advisor, and because of him, I've given up my life of crime, or so I say. Have Rick come speak to your group or to check out one of his free seminars in your area, call him at 978-857-7573. And finally, if your organization needs to raise money and you want to have a great time doing it, you should have a Soccerheads Comedy Night. More than a comedy show, it's an event that your community will never forget, with soccer-themed humor and giveaways and all kinds of extras. Want to make money? Email Jim Ruberti at soccerheadsnewengland@gmail.com for the Soccerheads Comedy Night.
Those shows are also open to MILFs.
Those are open.
And I will add that Jim is a DILF. Okay, so if you're thinking of emailing Jim about the show, he is a DILF.
He's a DILF, and what would a DILF be in this case, in Jim's case?
Well, a MILF is a mom, I'd like, so the DILF is the dad.
Okay, if you say so.
You didn't know this?
I just have trouble.
It's just common out there in the...
When I think about Jim, I think about...
listening, and I couldn't agree more with Paul, and I know how you think when I agree with Paul, so I'm just remaining quiet right now because he's dead on.
All right, at this point, I got to move to the guest because you guys are making me a little sick to my stomach. Our guest, as we said, with Giovanni Pacini, or Giovanni Antonio Pacini, host of GP Soccer Podcast, and also, this is what a resume, state director for the United States Soccer Coaches Association. Is that right?
It's United Soccer Coaches. So what
sorry. I'm
No worries.
I thought it was a typo. I didn't have states there. Okay, United Soccer Coaches Association, and that's for 3 states, right? Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and Connecticut.
Yeah. So technically, the United Soccer Coaches, I'm a national staff coach, national goalkeeper staff coach, and the director for Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and New Hampshire.
By the time we're done with all of your bona fides,
3 years older.
We're going to be done. Yeah. Director of coaching for the Super Liga. You heard of the Super Liga, Paul? Batman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman. And goalkeeper coach at Regis College, East Region staff coach for United States Youth Soccer. And you also do lessons and development through GP Soccer and GP Voiceover Services, because as you'll hear, got a wonderful voice, got an interest in TV and radio. And as we mentioned, he's got his own podcast. You also coached our good friend and very funny comedian named Greg Murphy, who said nice things about you, and also says, Giovanni, that you're a big Steve Sweeney fan. He said something along the line like you've seen Steve Sweeney an unhealthy amount of times.
No, I haven't crossed that line.
Have you seen Greg?
Many times.
All right, now you coached in Weymouth?
So I coached in Weymouth. I had Murph as a student, believe it or not, in junior high school.
Okay.
That tells you how old I am. But he played for me collegiately at LaSalle College for a couple of years. Outstanding goalkeeper, not because it's Murph, I'm not saying because it's him, but he was an outstanding goalkeeper, and unfortunately didn't finish out his last couple of years. But yeah, I had the pleasure of coaching him in college for those brief 2 years. Yes.
Yeah, we'll talk about goaltenders and comedians a little bit later on, but don't tell Shalry Joseph, guys. But Giovanni, I think you have the best name of any guest we've had. So my question to you is: were your parents disappointed that you didn't go into opera?
You're not the first one to ask that question, believe it or not. Did you sing opera? Have you ever sung? And so no, they weren't disappointed that they were disappointed that I didn't take up the family business, but not disappointed that I didn't get into opera.
Okay, what was the family business? Or should I?
We made statuary. You know,
I was gonna say, Jim, if you said sanitation, I was gonna hang up.
Well, that's what they do use the statues for, Jim, now. They hide the bodies inside the statues.
Yeah, we need a couple of statues for Dave's feet. If you get a chance to make some molds, that would be great.
No, those are 2 molds that we never made. But that was the family business.
Hey, Dave, before we go any further, can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
Hey, Jim, can you hear me? This is Dale.
I have you, Dale.
I'm getting a little feedback. When you're not talking, I'm getting some feedback. It's your heavy breathing. Could you do us a favor? Could you just stop breathing until it's your chance to talk on the podcast, and we'll go from there?
The thing about this is, I guarantee you're not the first person that said to Jim, "Will you just stop breathing?"
Well, I'm calling you from the treadmill.
It sounds like either that or you have a prostitute in the car.
Probably the latter would be closer to the treadmill, but sure, I can put you on. I will definitely mute you guys, and then when I'm ready, I'll chime in.
All right, thanks, Jim.
Nothing could be better.
I was just kidding, but that's a great idea, Jim. That's an excellent idea.
Thank you, Dale. Hate you.
Jim, you're making Pat Collins sound good. That's how bad it is.
Oh, Jesus, that's so bad. All right.
So Jim, we've got a goalie coach here, a goalkeeper coach. Anything you'd like to ask him?
Yeah, where was he? Where was he when I needed training?
Famous last words, man.
Especially on penalty kicks. I could have used a lot of help.
You know, you guys went to the same college.
What? Are you a Boston State grad?
UMass Boston.
Not quite the same. Not quite the same.
No, same place.
When Boston
same
State
teachers.
bit the dust, yeah, we came to UMass Boston.
So
yeah, UMass Boston, and like I said, I could have used a lot of goalkeeping help. But you do know you're sitting next to Paul Nardizzi, a forward. You know that, right? You must be uncomfortable a little bit being next to a forward.
I'm backing off as we speak.
Yeah.
As we speak, I'm backing off.
I don't think it matters about being a forward to be uncomfortable around Paul Nardizzi.
Jim, we didn't tell him about your goalkeeping record. We figured we'd let you tell him. I mean, we got Dale over here who basically caused a war over in Ukraine, and then you can tell him your little secret.
Just, 0 for 15 on penalty kicks throughout my college career and high school career. But mainly college career. I didn't save one penalty kick. And by the way, there were no shootouts in that 0 for 15. Those were all real penalty kicks.
You just continually guess the wrong way.
That is correct. Just like being on this podcast, I guessed the wrong way.
Hopefully you're not a gambler or anything like that. Yeah, I don't like those odds.
Although my coach did accuse me of betting on the other team once, which was another story of how poorly I played at some points in my career. But you have a great, I mean, I've looked at your background, and this goalkeeping stuff is fantastic. I wish I was there to ask you even better questions, but congratulations on a great career and where you are now, and love to hear more about it.
Are you landing airplanes now? Or what's...
Did you get out of the car for a little bit and just wander out to the median?
Dale, I want you to keep this next comment on the podcast. I hate you all.
It's Jim, it's interesting. Before the podcast, we were talking to Giovanni about goal kicks, and he said the secret really is the goalie's got to make himself big. Got to make himself big, and he's got to not give up the back line.
Did you ever get that advice?
That's it.
Did you ever get that advice?
It's all he talks about. It's all it talks about. They told him to get big after college, and he did.
You covered up more space. You covered up more square footage.
Giovanni, if you were coaching Jim, pretend we're back in the 1980s.
Yes.
And he's given up 14. You're his coach.
15. And he...
No, I'm saying
he's the captain. He's the captain of your team. He's a good goalie, except for the fact that if anybody gets the ball and kicks it at him, he's got problems.
No, I'm saying he's given up 14. We're heading into the game, and he's going to possibly have a PK.
Sure.
What do you tell him? Going 14.
Well, there's, all kidding aside, I mean, there are ways you can read the shooter. I mean, back in the day, we kind of joke, you would literally guess, go right, go left. But now it's gotten more sophisticated, like a lot of things in sports and in soccer, where you now read the shooter, the angle of which he or she is approaching the ball. Are they close? Are they far away? The angle of their hips. There's so many things that you can read prior to the shot actually being taken, that it does give the goalkeeper a degree of information to then make a more informed decision, shall we say, rather than just purely, I'm going to go right, I'm going to go left. No, there's a lot of things you can read in the shooter, what they give you physically, to then make a better educated educated decision to go right, or do I go left?
Hey, Jim, I have a goalkeeping question for you as far as training. Like you said, things have changed over the years. In fact, one of our trainings was the coach would put a student's chair to each side of our body, and we had to jump over that chair to dive for soccer balls, literally dive over the chair. What do you guys do to get goalies to get up in the air and cover so much of the net now? I've noticed that over the years, goalies are getting higher and diving longer from post to post. What has changed over the past 20 years?
Well, thank God there's no more chairs, because I too am old enough to recall coaches, putting chairs. Here's a story, and then I'll answer your question. I worked with the great Joe Mocknick a number of years ago. I spent some time with him when he was coming here in the Boston area. He was conducting tryouts for the New York Arrows, of which he was the head coach. During the day before we did the tryouts, and at night, I used to go do clinics with him. And I'll never forget this. We're doing a youth clinic, and he would, after we'd go through the clinic, he'd ask one of the players to get on all fours, and he would toss the ball, and I would dive over one player. Then he would ask another player. Now it's two players. He would toss the ball, and then there were three players. And if at any point, any part of your body or my body that touched one of those players, he would just get all over you and just basically intimidate you to want to clear the three and then sometimes the four players. But that was the norm. That was the approach. Well, to answer your question more definitively, technique has gotten better. Now we now incorporate footwork, anticipating, where a shot may go, and then, providing the appropriate footwork to get to a point where then you can ultimately make the save. And if you've got good footwork and you get into a good position, maybe you don't have to dive, or the dive isn't as far as it needs to be. Maybe it doesn't have to be an extension dive. Maybe it's a collapse dive. So the technique has gotten better, and specifically with footwork, reading the shooters, that whole element now is now part of training goalkeepers, reading much like the point I was making earlier with penalty kicks. Are you reading the shooter? What are they giving you? Where do they plant their foot, their hips, when they're ready to pull the trigger, that type of thing. And you take all the information in, you process it in a split second, and then you go. And the ultimate test is, did you save it or didn't you save it? So it's a long way of me saying that things have just gotten more technical, and the sophistication of how we train the goalkeepers have gotten that much better.
Do you have I have gotten Dave and Paul to really pay attention to goalkeeping, even though they hate it. How do you feel about staying on your line? I mean, that is the biggest thing I see in mistakes for goalies, coming off their line. Is it do you still drill that into these kids' head?
So you got to keep in mind now, the goalkeeper is another soccer player. So since the advent of the back pass rule where the goalkeeper can't pick the ball up, the modern soccer goalkeeper is a soccer player first. So they're part of the game. And, we've all seen enough soccer games to know that, you can play the ball through the goalkeeper, changing points of attack, lay the ball back to the goalkeeper who then, knocks the ball over the top to alleviate pressure. The goalkeeper now in terms of their movement is very much indicative of another field player. We see goalkeepers playing very high, sometimes out of the box, when his or her team is in the attacking third of the field because, they can be used to bring the ball back to change points of attack or to recycle the ball. Gone are the days where, you're the goalkeeper, that's the white line, stay there, don't move, don't venture anyplace else because if you do, you have now vacated the very thing we want you to protect. But again, with the change in rules, with the back pass rule, no, the goalkeeper now is a soccer player first than a goalkeeper.
Yeah,
I'll give you a fun fact. The goalkeeper handles the ball 7 times more with his feet than they do with their hands in the modern game. So right there is an indication as, the goalkeeper being a soccer player before he or she is a goalkeeper.
Oh boy, I have a feeling Paul's going to go to his study any second now.
He's Googling as we speak.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just see it more with, even if the ball's just about 18 to 20 yards out, just outside the box, I see goalies still standing on the 6-yard box. And I think that might be because of the new training that they are a player and not more of a keeper at that point. I can't tell you how many goals I see go over these goalies' heads that if they stayed on their line or played better angles. I'm just strictly talking just outside the 18-yard box. I still see them coming out way too much. I don't know. It just bugs me as a keeper. That's all.
Well, I can certainly say that with younger goalkeepers. So the two things you want to kind of keep in mind. I'm going to get very clinical here. I don't want to be a big buzzkill here, being a comedy show. But the things we talk about when goalkeepers are preparing to deal with a shot is something that's called the ball line, and that's the imaginary line from the ball to the center of the goal. And the goalkeeper is going to try to position him or herself on that ball line. The second thing they consider is something that's called the angle arc, and this is an imaginary arc that kind of goes from one corner of the 18 to the other. So therefore, wherever the ball happens to be, they're going to get on the ball line, come up off the line just enough, an appropriate amount of space or distance from the goal to effectively make the goal smaller, because we know when you come out, you make the goal smaller, you cut down the angle, to then be in a better position, literally and figuratively, to hopefully make the save. If I had a whiteboard here, I'd be scribbling stuff on a whiteboard left and right. I'd have your head spinning, but hopefully that.
No, you've got a head spinning anyway.
All right.
You do know you lost Dave at ball line, right? That's where Dave kind of dropped off, right after you heard ball line.
The ball line?
Actually, as soon as he said, "I don't want to get too technical," that's pretty much when he lost me. I got a question. Question. You go to a Revs game or you watch the Revs on TV. Do you break down Matt Turner?
Oh God, it's a curse. As a coach educator and having done it for so many years, it's kind of a bit of a curse where I do that all the time, and I sometimes can't be a fan because I'm forever analyzing players. But to answer your question more specifically, yeah, I do. I'll look at goalkeepers and analyze them left and right because it's what I do. It's what I do. So yes, indeed, I do.
And I can feel that because even here around with this, he's got a background in TV and radio, and he's just, I could tell he's like that Massachusetts accent.
So Giovanni, what you said about the ball line and the arc, I mean, I'm with you, but there's also a thing about how much time do you have to see the shot. If you're on the line, you have a couple split seconds longer to see it. I just feel like watching Tim Howard all these years, he was always too far out. The ball was always going over his head, ball line or no. He just drove me nuts. Now, you know more about goaltending than me, but I considered him one of the most overrated players ever. In that game against Belgium, most of those shots were right at him, and he was horrible in that tournament.
It's funny, Paul. Like anything else, any sport that we talk about here, you can train, you can have the best goalkeeper coaches in the world, but there's that innate part that every athlete has. And sometimes you can't coach the innateness out of an athlete. Mm-hmm. And in his case, I could argue, I guess, innately, he just had this need, if you will, to come off the line or wanted to be involved with the ball that much sooner than he really needed to be. I can tell you, having seen him train firsthand, I spent a little bit of time in Everton and had the great honor of meeting him and spending some time with the younger goalkeepers over at Everton. Such a tremendously hard trainer, student of the position, dedicated to the position, and arguably, one of our best goalkeepers in recent modern history. Great athlete, and he relied a lot on his athleticism to be an effective goalkeeper. He was fun to watch. But again, like a lot of sports, you have this kind of innateness. It's kind of there, and you kind of go with it. You kind of go with that instinct. And sometimes that works, and sometimes it doesn't.
How about Turner? Is Turner different this year than last year?
Well, he's coming off an injury. We know he's he played that frigid night and got frostbite, and then he had a broken bone in his foot. And that did indeed set him back. Matt Turner is that guy, is that goalkeeper that's going to make saves that just aren't technical, that you don't think he has any business getting to, but he makes the save. Because remember, folks, at the end of the day, the number one rule in goalkeeping is make the save.
Right.
Throw technique out the window. It's about making the save. And Matt Turner has that ability to make those saves. Another hard worker, another very dedicated athlete in terms of playing the position of goalkeeper. My opinion, I think he will be the guy in Qatar or Qatar. We still haven't decided what it is yet, Qatar or Qatar. But he will be the goalkeeper with the U.S. men's national team, my own opinion. I know Greg Berhalter has said openly that he wants the goalkeeper who is playing currently. My gut says it's going to be Matt Turner. If he can get some time at Arsenal, that would be great.
How about Murph?
We just went from Turner to Murph.
Yeah,
to Turner to Murph.
I was on my notes, but I've got a question that I've been dying to ask since we started. How many players have you coached named Murph?
I think Murph might be the only Murph. Might be the only Murph.
You haven't been a coach in the Boston area.
I haven't had any Sullys.
You haven't had any Sullys?
No Sullys. One Murph.
You didn't coach John Murphy, the one that ended up at BC?
I never coached John Murphy, who I know very, very well. No, I never coached John.
Most of them are playing hockey or bartenders.
or in this case, a comedian.
That's true.
A comedian. Yeah.
Why do you think Pat Collins, Greg Murphy, Pat Collins, Brad Mastrangelo, Steve Bjork.
Dave Lamb, I think someone told me.
Dave Lamb was a goalie. All soccer goalies. I played goalie for a year, but only because they put the best athlete at goalie, and
I can tell.
Yeah, and Jim was a goalie, so that's a lot of goalies that became comedians later in life. What theory would you have to explain that so many former soccer goalies later became comedians?
Well, they say to be an effective goalkeeper, you got to have courage or crazy. Sometimes it's a combination of both.
Yeah.
So maybe it's that combination of being a little bit crazy, but having a lot of courage. I'm speaking to the choir here. You guys are comedians. It takes a lot of cojones to get up there and entertain and get people to laugh. And you better have courage to be in the goal. And you got to be a little bit crazy to get on stage or to get in the goal. So that's where I think that all comes from.
Let me run this by Paul. Paul, these people. Do you think it's courage or do you think it's lack of self-awareness?
When I go through that list, I think I'm with Gio.
You think
I agree with Gio.
Courageous?
I mean, I kind of said that when we went over it before I gave you my theory. That was a piece of it, was the courage factor.
That was a piece of his theory.
I have other
the courage
parts
factor
to it, but yes.
He's got a lot of theories.
I'm quite sure.
Was Mario funny? I don't remember him being funny. So not that he was boring, but I don't remember.
Mario.
His brother.
Mario's my brother. My brother was a very good goalie. Not because he's my brother, not because he's going to listen to this. No, Mario wasn't crazy.
He was pretty straight and narrow.
Yeah, he's the last guy you might think to have been a goalkeeper. But I remember him as a young kid. I want to be in the goal. And he was in the goal, and I'd be ripping shots at him too fast, as older brothers might do with younger brothers. And I can remember a couple of times whacking him. He'd be crying and running in the house, and my mother would come out and yell at me that I'm hitting the ball too hard. But man, he's the last person who would be a comedian, I think.
Yeah.
How much younger than you was he that you were gunning the ball at him?
11 years younger than me. 11 years.
I hope you were hitting them full blast.
I think he's forgiven me.
So I played on a team, I'll tell our listener this, with Mario. It was called the Land Sharks. and the logo was this shark drinking a beer.
Doesn't sound like you.
Kicking a soccer ball, which I still have the shirt. I'll bring it in next time.
Oh, good.
Show our
thank,
listener.
Thank goodness.
So,
hey, do you think you can wash it?
It is
before?
washed. Yes, it's
All
washed. So we won a tournament, which we just thought was a local tournament, but it turned out to be a qualifier.
This is
we
that
went
team?
down to Georgia with Mario.
He must have been a very good goaltender.
And the other teams were like professional teams and semi-pro, and they saw this logo, and they were not happy that we were there. And they took it out on us big time, like 15-0 big time. Actually, you know what? I don't think Mario won on the trip. I think Rick played net.
I think you might be right.
But Mario was our goalie.
Indeed, he was.
'Cause I remember Rick down there getting torched and getting
pummeled.
pissed.
Thank God for Mario.
Yeah.
If you saw that logo and you're in an opposing team, you're going to want to pummel these guys. Like, who the heck they think, with that logo.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, but you would also think, would it be their fault, or would it be whoever organized the tournament in New England's fault?
I guess all of the above for wearing the jersey.
Yeah, you can't take it out on the organizers, so
No.
take it out on these schlups.
Yeah.
Is Jim still with us?
Yeah, I'm going to go back to what Gio said about being goalies real quick.
Yep.
See, this is important because goalies can shake things off. We
Yep.
give up a bad goal. It's terrible. We shake it, almost like being a comedian. You have a bad set, you shake it off, and you come right back. Just like Gio's going to feel after this podcast. He's going to shake this off and then get back to his career.
I just looked at his to-do list. He's writing notes, and he said, "Take a shower." He's going to have to take a shower after this podcast.
And increase my meds.
Yeah.
When you said have a bad set, Dave twitched. Just letting you know, Jim.
So you're asking about the ability to shake off a goal?
Well, no, I'm just saying we were talking about courage, crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we as goalies, and I mean you and I, look, the whole game is resting on our shoulders. We make a mistake. We disappoint everybody, but we shake it off. We get back in there, and we keep going. And a
Jim,
lot of people can't do that.
This sounds
Like
a lot.
Dave.
This sounds a lot like your dating life.
It does, absolutely.
Disappoint a lot of people.
You know,
I don't know. I think there's a lot when you talk about comedians and goalkeepers. We can shake things off. We don't let things bother us. We don't live in the past like Dave lives in the past. He sleeps with all his writing awards at night. We don't do that.
I don't. I sleep with stuffed animals.
Well, you know what? To bring a serious moment here, the important part of shaking it off is the ability to learn from the mistake. Learn, why did I give up that goal? And any good goalkeeper, practices that. I mean, goodness knows in my goalkeeping career, I gave up my fair share of goals. And after a certain point in time, you go, okay, I gave it up. Why did I give it up? And you learn from it, and you go to the next one. You just go to the next one. And then the same thing is, I'm assuming for a comedian, bad set, bad joke. Okay, done. Let's go to the next one.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Except for penalty kicks where I said, okay, I dove right the last time. Now I'm going to dive left. Hold on, I dove left. I'll trick the shooter by diving left. I'll dive left again. They'll never figure it out. Never works.
Jim, did your coach ever consider, instead of putting you in net, putting the chair in net for the game?
All these years, now you have a sense of humor. That was good, Paul. I like that.
It's funny. I don't think I ever learned anything about, that would help. Well, no, I learned one thing that would help me. I was a hockey goalie as well. And the biggest thing that I learned after a while was never to forget my cup. Because I told Jim this. I used to, every so often, I'd forget my cup playing ice hockey. And my glove was so quick on those days. I didn't care. I didn't have my hand up as high. I just put my hand a little lower, and it was quick.
Did you ever get hit there with a puck with no cup?
No, not with no cup.
The coldest, the most painful I ever felt, all the times that I got hit in the nuts, was not the time I got hit in the nuts, but the time that I played on the pond and I got close to frostbitten in the genitals. That was I can't even explain how painful it was.
Did you figure out that your brother was doing you a disservice by telling you to put snow under there?
Did you have clothes on?
I had pants on. For some reason, I got really cold right there, and I had to go home, and I was really fearing that it was going to have to be amputated. It was really painful.
And I don't want to know how you warm them up. Let's not even go there.
How do you feel about making the drive to do this podcast, to listen to Paul's stories?
I'll think twice the next time. No, God, no.
No, I have a question for you, though. You're what is it, a licensed coach.
Well, I'm a master coach with United Soccer Coaches, yes.
So I am a national D.
Gotcha, yep.
So I've been through some of the classes, and I like them. You learn a lot.
Yep.
But it must get frustrating for you. I was frustrated as a lot of soccer dads show up, and you have to play. You have to show that you can set up a drill, but then get in the drill and play. And some of these people can't play. So as an instructor, that must get... I always felt like they should break it up into levels, but they don't. They just kind of bring a cattle call of people in, and then the game is a total mishmash.
Yeah, it's a good point. One of the significant differences between U.S. soccer and United Soccer coaches is, we don't expect, in terms of United Soccer coaches, to be capable soccer players. A lot of people are mums and dads who've never kicked the ball in their life.
Nothing wrong with it at all.
No, not at all. And that makes up the bulk of the coaches we have in this country. So our aim being United Soccer coaches is to ensure that everybody who takes a coaching education course leaves the course that much better. And sometimes that's just marginal, and sometimes it's very significant. Whereas U.S. soccer does have a bit of a playing expectation more with the advanced licenses than the more grassroots one. At the end of the day, whether you're taking something from U.S. soccer or United Soccer coaches, you should leave with an increased ability to be able to teach the game, whether you played or not. Is it frustrating for me as an instructor to have folks who've never played? No, not really. Oftentimes it provides a lot of good coaching points, in a course. I have no problem with that. But at the end of the day, Paul, and I guess this is the teacher in me coming out, having spent so many years in public education, the idea is to make you, the teacher of the game, who's going to go back to his community, a better teacher of the game, a better coach. If I, as an instructor, can do that, then I have been successful.
Do other countries have two entities? Why do we have two? Why can't they figure it out?
How much time do we have, Paul Nardizzi?
Really?
Yeah.
A money grab?
Oh, God. So the United States of America is a different sporting culture than any other soccer compared to other soccer nations. We're not Germany, we're not Belgium, we're not England, we're not Brazil. We're the United States of America. We have football, basketball, baseball, hockey, lacrosse. We have that whole laundry list, and now includes soccer. Whereas in other countries, as we all know here, there's soccer and everything else, right? So generally speaking, their national organization or the methodology or the methods by which they teach coaches, is pretty much uniform, with some variation here and there. Here in the United States, we always have to make things difficult. I always say, and if you listen to my podcast, I say this all the time, America's greatest strength is soccer's greatest weakness. And what does that mean? Well, here in America, it's the land of opportunity. You can go out and start a business. You can start an organization. You can be a comedian if you want, whatever you want. It's the land of opportunity. There's nothing you can't do in America. It's soccer's greatest weakness for the exact same thing, Paul, because the four of us here tomorrow can go start our own soccer club. Mm-hmm. And you start a soccer club and you don't like the way we play, you go start your own league. And so there's so many entities of soccer at the micro level and at the macro level, which more to answer your question, that's the way it is in the United States. We have U.S. Soccer that has their licensure. You have United Soccer coaches, and we've got other entities. We have USYS, U.S. Club. We have a variety of leagues. I call it the alphabet soup of soccer. But that's America. And it is a challenge trying to navigate your way through this mishmash of alphabetized soccer to effectively put the country on a direction to develop better players. That's my answer in a real nutshell.
It's almost like they said they watched boxing and said, well, Don King can give you the heavyweight title of Bob Arum, so let's do the same thing with soccer.
Pretty much. There you go.
Well, they've done it with other sports. I mean, Babe Ruth, American Legion, Little League.
Yeah.
In baseball, they're all, they'll sometimes start a league, and this happened years ago. I don't even know if the league's still around, but it was for kids who were later starting and weren't as good in baseball, and they started this league. But sure enough, soon people wanted to win.
Oh,
kids sometimes they want to play with their friends. Sure. So that's another reason to put them in. And so that became very, very competitive. And so now you've really got a competing league, not an alternative league.
And let's not forget, and I'll throw this in, the corporatization of youth sports.
Yes.
I mean, the youth sports industry right now is a $20 billion industry.
Yeah.
By 2026, they estimate it to be $77 billion, right? So when there's a buck to be made, when there's a dollar to be made, you can't help, suspect that things might be compromised. Not every case. I don't want people emailing me, Pacini, we don't do it that way. That's not what I'm saying. But there's enough of it out there, and when there's a bottom line introduced, that the purity of what you're trying to do gets compromised. It gets compromised. That's America.
Right. And when you two are talking about licensing, you mean certification?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's professional certification for professional coaches, amateur coaches?
Every level.
Every level of coaches.
From the grassroots to the most advanced.
All right.
Most advanced, yep.
Yeah, you pay to do it, and you're there sometimes for a week. High the license, you could end up staying over for a whole week to do the thing. My thing was 2 weekends at Framingham State College in the gym with one of the top coaches. It was great. I really liked it.
So if you're going to be if you go for a job as a certified coach or an licensed
Master.
Well,
he's a master.
So there's different levels.
Yes.
So, in U.S. soccer, it's alphabetized. You go A, B, C, D, E license. And whereas United Soccer coaches, we have, your master coach, which is the top of the pyramid, your premier, your advanced national, your national. And then we have the grassroots, your 11v11, 4 versus 7v7, 9v9, 4 versus 4.
So at what point would you take Paul Nardizzi and have him snatch a pebble from your hand?
At any level, he can be that person.
I'm going to ask this a loaded question. Is a master coach is better technically, or he's just more educated?
So the master coach has got very little to do with X's and O's, quite frankly.
Okay.
It's a broader look, a broader examination, a broader study in the sport of soccer. It's like getting your PhD in soccer.
Yeah.
Just getting a PhD in soccer. And it's in my case, when I did it, I was a college coach, head coach. So the curriculum and the content was catered toward college coaches.
Yeah.
It included an international trip, spent 12 days in the UK, which was a phenomenal experience, required to do a dissertation. I had a number of projects that I had to complete. It was about almost a year of my life and a few bucks. And but arguably, in terms of my own professional development, in terms of the licensure process, a highlight of my developmental career as a coach. And I'm still at it. During COVID, when nothing was going on, I took U.S. soccer grassroots coaching courses online.
Yeah.
I took a course on coach development with Open University in the UK. I took a number of courses. It's a journey. It's ongoing. It stops when you croak. It stops when you die. If you're a true lifelong learner.
I guess the question is, does it make and take yourself as an example, but take others as an example too. Does it make you a better teacher?
Well, it's supposed to.
I know.
It's supposed to. Not in all cases. And it's a great question, because I can't begin to tell you the number of people who will attend a coaching education course, the vast majority of which are truly into it. And they want to learn, and they want to implement it, and they want to, try the new things they've learned. But there's too many of them that will take a coaching education course and it falls out of their comfort zone, and they go back to doing what they've always done. Or, and not in every case, right? You get the cynics that come in. They sit in the back of the room, and they've got people can't see me, but I got my arms folded. They have their arms folded, and they have I know all this.
Yeah.
I know all this.
Yeah.
Right?
That's me.
And there you go. But as instructors, you go, okay, there's that guy.
Yeah.
But it's my job as a coaching education professional to ensure that even the cynic, or the one who's not really, comfortable doing this, that I can kind of get to him. Can I get to him that he'll at least try something? And the reality here is when you learn the new stuff, you're going to try it and you're going to fail. You're going to make mistakes. And I tell people all the time, you're going to make mistakes. So as a coach educator, here's my phone number. Here's my email. You call me, you text me, and I will help you. I will help you through the process, because I really want you to embrace this way of teaching the game of soccer. And I want you to know that I'm there to help you.
Now, quick question. While you're teaching, when you're teaching these people, you are telling them, I imagine, that you're not teaching them a style of coaching or how to coach, because all that depends on the players, correct?
Yeah.
You're teaching them a myriad of ways to coach, correct?
That is correct. And we teach them the various methodologies of teaching the game. There's different methods you use when with a bunch of U6 players. There's different methods you might use for U10s or U8s, and there's certainly different methods when you have advanced players.
But you could be coaching 3 U10 teams and have to coach them entirely different based on the actual players, correct?
Sure, you modify. It's like it's like being a teacher. I say this all the time. The field is a classroom. The athletes are students. The coach is a teacher, and everything that takes place in a wonderful classroom, an educational classroom, in any public school in America, are the same things that have to manifest themselves on the soccer field. So, like any teacher, and I was a teacher for 24 years. Sometimes you have to modify. I may have a lesson plan prepared for a class that comes in. I taught health and physical education, and all of a sudden, this kid's missing, or that the class was cut because there was a fire drill, or any number of things that will change the dynamic of the lesson that I had put in place. So as a good educator, you modify. It's the same thing with soccer coaching. You make a great point. Well, sometimes the kids can't do the things that, you learned in a coaching education course. That's fine. Is there another way for me to modify this, to adjust it, so that the kids can get it and ultimately get better.
All right. I just want to change a little bit.
Sure.
This is the 6th year of your podcast.
Yes.
And I think you said this year you're focused on females in the sport.
Yes. The theme of season 6 of the GP Soccer podcast is the state of the women's game. Yes.
Okay. Now let me ask you this question. I'm a big fan of equity in sports. Paul and Jim.
Stop patronizing yourself.
They don't know what women are.
Oh boy.
They don't really know what women are. They've got sons. They're Italian. They don't really know. It's like, oh, women, they're the ones that serve us the food and bring us our laundry. Why the focus on females?
Well, it's an important part of the game. Yes, it has to do with soccer, but it also has to do with, the state of women in our country in general. We all know that, misogyny still is alive and well, unfortunately. We all know that women still make a fraction of the doll that men make.
Talking about you, Paul.
We know that despite it being 2022, we're not where we need to be in terms of equality and equity. And that is inextricably tied to sports. And in this case here with my podcast, I dedicated the whole season toward the state of the women's game, where we tie in, the issues that are are challenging women, from the youth to the professional level. And we also tie in, the social issues that are taking place. You can't help but tie in the two. Sports and politics, sports and social issues collide, whether you want them to or not. And sometimes it's unavoidable, where you have to have those conversations that are sometimes a little uncomfortable. And there are some things that I had to talk about that are uncomfortable, but they're necessary to talk about to gain a full appreciation of where we're at in terms of not just the state of the women's game in soccer, but the state of women in general.
Was Paul taking a knee during that?
He actually left to go to the bathroom.
I was working with Dale. We got a new plan for Putin. I'll launch it next week. We haven't had a woman guest on the show yet.
I wouldn't subject anyone to that. I wouldn't subject anyone to that. Any of the females that I know.
I should say we haven't had a woman accept our invitation to come on the show. Is that what I should say?
Yeah. Do you like the women's game at let's say the college level compared to the men's? Is it as good?
It's different. I mean, it's just as good. It's different. In the fact that men are bigger, stronger, faster.
Yep.
That's just biology. That's just physiology. So the game subsequently is played at a greater speed. But that doesn't mean that the women, despite playing at a little bit slower speed, the game isn't as enjoyable, as professional, tactical, entertaining. Fill in the blank. No, it's wonderful to watch. From the youth level to our NWSL, I skipped college, and all the way up to the professional level. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoy watching the women's game. I watch the NWSL games that are on television. I don't miss a U.S. women's national team. They are the best in the world, and why wouldn't you want to watch the best in the world? Well, it's terrific soccer.
This is a good question. Now, if you had your choice as a former high school coach,
college, high school and college
coach, former high school teacher, youth coach.
I've run the gamut. Yeah.
All right, and you've seen MLS and you've seen European soccer.
Mm-hmm.
If you had your choice, what would you watch?
My choice? You asked me to choose men or women?
No.
Oh.
I'm saying
good.
Here's the thing I found. I used to be a sports writer, as they might have mentioned.
Sure.
But I found that if I saw a good game between two well-matched teams, to me, the level didn't always matter. Of course, part of that was because I was covering the Bruins. Some of the years they weren't that great. And but to me, I would go to a high school basketball game, which was not my favorite sport. Of the bunch of them, high school soccer was toward the bottom. But you see these tournament games, and they're coming down to a shootout, the final, and the gym is packed, and people are going crazy, and that's a really fun experience. That honestly, I don't even think you get it's a different experience than the Garden when the Celtics are good. Even when the Celtics are good, if you know what I'm saying, there's like a more intimacy, and the flaws. It's almost the wabi sabi. It's the imperfections that make it more beautiful. The fact that this guy can't dribble to his left. That this guy can't make a shot. That this guy is only 6'1" and he's up against somebody in 6'6", which in high school is pretty big. It's a pretty big thing, but maybe the better athlete will win. And that there isn't another guy on the bench and another guy on the bench, another guy on the bench. I just like the competition. I think equally matched competition going at each other fiercely is, to my mind, that's the best thing to watch. That's the best game to watch, whatever the level of play is. I mean, I understand that the high school player can't necessarily take a pass at full speed, knock it down with his stick, and make a blind pass to somebody who in mid-stride. I know he can't do that, but it's still exciting to watch what they can do. What's your take?
So, now I've got better clarity with your question. High school, for me, it's high school soccer. There's something still, I don't know if I even hesitate to even use this word, pure about high school soccer, high school sports. Yep. I'm not a head college coach anymore, so I don't have to go out and recruit. I can go to high school games now because I want to go to a high school game. And there's something about going to a local community and the family and parents and friends and kids from the school come out and they come adorned in their jerseys and the colors, and you watch these kids play in a traditional, pure environment, So I still love high school sports. I love high school soccer. I always wish that I started my career as a high school coach. I always wanted to end it as a high school coach. That's not going to come to pass, and that's fine. But there's something to be said about that high school environment. And sometimes I'm driving around, there's a high school game. It's 3:30. I'm going to pull in, call a wife. I'm going to watch the first half, and because I just want to be there. So, and that's not to say you can't get this, Division III sports kind of has that flavor a little bit because they're small colleges. So you can kind of say the same thing. When you get Division II, Division I, forget it. It's a different animal altogether. And heck, I've been known to sit down and thoroughly enjoy a 4 versus 4 U6 game. I swear to God.
that might be stretching it.
It's amoeba, we call it amoeba soccer or whatever you want to call it. But my goodness, there's something about those kids wanting to be near the ball. And I guess that makes me such a crazy purist that I am, or a crazy soccer nut. Their joy wanting to be around what I call the magical sphere is something to behold, to see these little kids that just want to be around the ball, which drives coaches crazy. Drives them crazy.
Oh yeah, but it's not the right way to play. But it's the fun way to play.
That's how they're built, though. That's how they're built. We could go off on
Dave's not allowed at those games, is he, Jim?
Oh no, Dave's never allowed at those. Although I think, Gio, I think this is very. Gio, I think you're part of history on our podcast. Just want to let you know that. I believe that was the longest question ever asked.
I think it covered 7 different sports. It started as soccer, then we were in a gym, then we were back outside.
Well, I'll tell you why.
I was worried you were going to go to cricket, and it all would have been over.
You know something? I figured that Giovanni could follow my question. I don't usually feel that with the people on the podcast.
Couple Ritalin I might have been able to hit with you. When I say couple, I mean bottles.
I think we lost Jim. I'm going to have to jump in for a second. And
that makes the podcast better when we
when I come in, when we lose Jim.
I wouldn't.
I don't know what happened. He probably didn't. If we know Jim, he didn't pay his cell bill.
Yeah. Oh, we're going to call him back?
I'm going to call him back, see if we can get him.
Why?
Why did you guys hang up on me?
We didn't hang up on you. Pay your bill, will you, Jim? Pay your bill.
We took a vote. It was 4-0.
It was 4-0. Gio, I'll only believe Gio. None of you guys.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Jim, try to keep your penis from hitting the red button, okay?
Well, we're Italian. That's hard to do. You know what I mean?
Well, it shouldn't be out, is my point. But, okay.
All right. Any more questions for Giovanni?
I don't think so.
No, I wish I was there in person, though, Gio. I would love to spend more time talking keeper stuff, but these two would fall asleep.
Yeah.
Not at all, Jim. Not at all.
No reason why we can't continue the conversation some other time over an adult beverage.
Yes, or maybe we could come on your podcast.
Listen, that's the plan. We'll talk.
Oh, that would be great.
We will talk.
What time do you do your podcast? What time?
So it comes out every Wednesday. Every Wednesday morning, there's a new podcast. It comes out weekly.
When do you record?
Oh, that varies.
Okay, good. As long as we can do it afternoon, I got to bring Dale with me. Everywhere I go, I got to bring Dale with me because someone's got to drive since the DWI. All right, good.
Dave doesn't usually sober up till about 11:30.
Yeah, I gotta be conscious of my bowels and everything. I got a lot of things in the morning. Paul, you got a story, Giovanni? This is going to be your favorite part of the show, and I know we've set the bar pretty low. This is Paul. Every week he brings us something from the wide world of soccer news. And what have you got for us today?
Jim, you ready?
Let it rip. I don't know if it's going to be my referee head on a stick one from last podcast.
Oh, it's very similar. So from Colombia, low divisions in Colombia. This guy had just moved into his house, and down in the basement there was a cooler. So he likes to drink after the game with his mates, so he stuffed a bunch of beers in the little side compartment of the cooler, takes it to the game. They're playing, and they noticed that there's kind of a smell across the field, which they assumed was because the field had been built on an old dump. We have a lot of those around here. In fact, there's one I played on in Salem one time, right on top of a dump.
Landfill is what we call it. Landfill.
Yeah. After the game, they went to go get the beers, and there was a human head inside the cooler. Because, like I said, he had just bought this house, evidently from a drug dealer who used to live there. And adjacent to the soccer field was a charity police softball game. And the police were actually investigating a case where a woman's husband had disappeared, and they had recovered most of him, but they were missing the head.
Oh, perfect.
Right? So the case is still open, and they look over and they see a bunch of drunk guys juggling a human head around after the game. And they were able to close the case.
And by juggling, you mean with the feet?
With their feet. Booting it around. After a few beers, I figured might as well just kick this thing around. So I don't envy the cop who had to go tell the wife that they discovered the head when they heard it clank off the crossbar.
And that is the story from the wide world of soccer news.
Dale, you were a cop. Any
that is a
thoughts?
penalty kick. That is a penalty kick I never would have wanted to say.
Well, I think in that part of the world, in that part of the country, it's kind of, that's what they do down there. They just kick around heads. That's what they do. It's nothing up here. It would be a little bit weird.
Yeah.
You'd probably get arrested for it. Down there, it's just typical day in Colombia, baby.
Well, Dale, when you were Italian, I'm sure you kicked some heads in, but not kicked them around.
I'm very non-violent, James.
But when you drink, Dale, you don't drink it, but you liked a good head on the beer, didn't you, when you drank?
Maybe after the beer, a good head.
Oh, my God.
Giovanni, would you like to comment at all on anything you just heard?
I'll cut that out.
It may affect the rest of your career, Giovanni. Don't do it.
I'm already twitching.
All right. That's the great story. That's it for this episode of Soccerheads New England. We'll be back next week, and would like to thank our sponsors, financial advisor Rick Spencer. Call him at 978-857-7573. And soon you too will live like Jim Ruberti, who is so rich and so full of himself that his household budget includes a line item for buying new mirrors. Also, Monster Soccer, created by Paul Nardizzi and named after the nickname Paul was given when he was just a baby by the nurses in the maternity ward. Want to be a better soccer player? Call Monster Soccer at 508-308-4109.
Did Brenda write that line?
No.
Really?
No.
That had to come
Taking
from
the pen
Brenda.
out these
Brenda
days?
wrote that.
What's that?
You're actually taking the
Brenda
pen out
wrote
and
that,
writing some
no doubt.
jokes?
I'm actually writing my own jokes.
I thought you spent most of the week writing that question, but I'm glad you had time to write that. It was pretty good.
That question was very good when it was formulating, just not with the execution. Moving on. Don't forget, for fundraising, the Soccerheads Comedy Night for your soccer team, league, club, or whatever. The Soccerheads will make your fundraiser more than a show. We'll make it an experience. Email us at soccerheadsnewengland@gmail.com, and we'll get the ball rolling, so to speak. Also, check out Jim and Paul and I in Milford at the Doubletree Hotel on Saturday, June 18th. For our guests, Giovanni Pacini, Paul Nardizzi, Jim Ruberti, I'm Dave Rattigan, and our engineer, Dale Lawrence. This has been Soccerheads New England.